come up to the big kids
Something,
table, huh?
something Teddy will luck out and not having to deal with.
If you don't behave, you can't stay up here.
I know.
Yeah, Rick's the master over there.
Hey,
Sergeant at arms.
Sergeant at Arms?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
So we used the TIF money to buy the building to lease to Kiva. And we kind of delayed doing anything else until kind of the dust settled and we figured out what all costs were. And it turns out, you know, we had legal fees and things we hadn't anticipated. And so the idea is that it's time to revisit what money we're anticipate having available. Because if we want to do anything with it that involves construction, we've got to start that process now. So Sue prepared this list of revenue sources for the balance of this year with total. And the things that we have at least tentative commitments on doing. The difference, which is handwritten on this sheet, is $125,811. So if we do the things shown under the committed expenditures, that's what we'll have left at the end of the year. Now this problem, the decision-making process is complicated by the fact that we don't get this money until the end of the year, much of it, until the end of the year. We get the TIF sales tax, the people who file quarterly, but most of it's property tax. It comes in December. So we got a cash flow question about if we want to do anything. We're spending money we haven't received yet. Where do we borrow? You know, what do we borrow in order to cover our cash flow needs? And I think DNR has asked me. Well, we have to pay for the engineering under the grant.
Engineering for what?
For the hiking biking trail that we have a grant for that we decided to not do.
Okay. But we still have to pay for that.
Because we
That's
took that
still
money
gonna-
from the state and we're
Right.
going to give it back to them.
Yeah.
But that's still gonna come in useful at a later date.
Well, we have designed, the plans are done.
Right.
So if you want to pursue that project, you've got what you need,
I mean, they'll be good for a while, right?
unless somebody,
Where is this on this, what I'm looking at?
Not on here.
On
it's
expenditures.
the grant commitment.
Okay.
We have a full set of plans, construction drawings and specifications that for the extension of Parkwood with the trail adjacent to it, as is on Progress Park, that could be built, and the only reason unless some standard changes that I'm unaware of now, they'll be good for, those plans will be good for a long time. We need to set aside some money for building repairs that may occur on the building. This legal is kind of the audit at the end. It's the SEMO Regional Planning Services for tracking. It's kind of everything lumped into one. I contacted Ron Coleman because we hadn't heard from him. I copied you on his email response. Randy wasn't a party to that, about our commitment to him on the parking lot. He informed me, as you have seen in the email, that he closed on the purchase of the building. Eric Scott is buying the National Vinyl Building and going to continue to make products there. And so, we have a commitment to him on the parking. The Community Center Foundation is our final payment under our contract with them. The hospital payment is the amount that was obligated on the nursing home that was supposed to have been built by August of this year, August of last year, 2014. And then the principal and interest is on the final TIF payment. Yes, sir.
Are we really obligated to the whole payment to the hospital because they didn't fulfill their part of the agreement?
I think that's up for discussion.
Do we have a contract? Or
Yes.
We have a new contract with
No.
them? No, we don't.
They proposed an amendment to their existing contract that would have extended the redefined substantial completion and would have extended the completion date to December 18th. And they came and made that presentation to you.
And they also changed the definition of substantial completion. What happened was the original TIF agreement obligated the city to redeem a TIF note. And there was a provision in that TIF agreement that would allow extensions to the due date for up to August of last year. In other words, the TIF obligation would have ended about a year earlier. But the agreement allowed for, they call it force majeure, but if there was something that would have come up, they would have had another year extension on the city's obligation up to August 2014. So if you get what I'm saying, if you back up from August 2014, that's when your obligation would have ended. There was another provision that would have allowed them to say, whoops, something came up, we need extensions on this, tornadoes or whatever, but not to exceed August of 2014. So August 2013 was the actual end of the city's obligation. And the substantial completion at that time was you had to have an occupancy permit. But now what they're wanting to do is change the substantial completion to under roof.
No, are you familiar with the term white box? It'll be under roof, it'll be finished, everything inside will be finished, plumbing will be done, electric will be done, but the walls might not be painted, and the carpet may not be on the floor yet.
And certainly they don't have an occupancy permit for putting people in there.
Right.
So that's what they're wanting. They're saying, even though it ran out August 2013, even though we didn't apply for an extra year's extension, we want you to change the game so that we still get our money by the end of 2015, or before the end of 2015, without meeting the substantial completion definition that was in the original contract.
So I guess it's 37,000. I guess that mean that much to the people that were building it at the hospital? When
I can't
nothing
explain
was
why
not-
he was unable to meet the deadlines that were in the contract.
But even though,
They may have been financing, it may have been delays in state permitting, which is what they suggested to me was the problem. I can't tell you why.
They didn't apply for the extension, for the one-year extension, but even if they had, the opportunity to extend it an additional year up to August of 2014 expired.
So we have no obligation
See,
to give them a dime.
they even missed the extension.
They missed, yes, but they didn't apply for it. We weren't, the city wasn't contacted, hey, we have this problem. It was sort of, as the extension, the last extension date ran out, I think was the first time y'all were contacted. Never in writing.
I had made several efforts over the last years, starting 2 years prior to the August of 2014 date, because I knew how long it takes to build a nursing home. I built nursing homes, and I didn't see how they were going to make it. And,
We could have had a white box without having all these
Yeah.
permits and licenses. They could have done the white box in 2013.
But they didn't.
But-
So let's get
but we
get
didn't hear
down to
from
where we're
them
at.
until that night, and they came and talked to the lawyer.
Say that again.
I think they submitted plans that we reviewed and approved. But, and at that time, I mentioned the contract. And the only action that was taken on the contract was when an attorney proposed a revision to the original agreement that did, as Frank says, change the substantial completion date and extended the contract period through December 18th.
So the current contract is expired, is that correct?
You know, I'd ask him for a legal
Frank, what do
opinion.
you, I mean,
Yes.
okay.
And the only question is whether you have the power to amend the expired contract, or whether you got to start over and try to run something through as a new TIF obligation.
Or the other scenarios, we just don't give up on that. We take the $337,000 and spend it some other place.
That would be my opinion. You have the right to do that, and I've not been shown anything that changes that opinion. But if you said, could we, it's like asking a lawyer, can you figure out a way to make this happen? I probably could, but it would be pushing the issue of what benefit does the city receive for paying money on a contract that is expired? What's the new benefit?
But then at the same time, how does, does this give us a black eye if we take this money out of here and say, this is expired, we've gone through this, we asked you to do all this stuff over and over, you haven't done this, so
I'd be
how do
surprised-
we look?
I'd be surprised if they didn't know that.
Okay.
I would be shocked.
Well, they gotta know that, sure. They know where they're at, just like we know where they're at.
Now, could we figure out a way to help the project? Maybe, but in terms of an obligation, no, it would be discretionary, and it's measured by this question of public benefit, is what do you get?
The city, this was agreed upon once before, that this would be the amount of money that we're gonna put into the project, right?
Right.
Nothing has changed. The only thing that changed is they missed a deadline that was in their contract. That's the only thing that changed. The project didn't go away, it got held up for unknown reasons. So this has been approved once. And I'm watching around the room and I'm smelling blood. It's like, we got $337,000, we'll have to give them, let's do something else with it. This is already approved. The only issue is they missed their contract date.
Well, let me redefine that just a little bit. That transaction between the seller and the buyer, the hospital was the seller and the nursing home folks was the buyer. The hospital agreed to put some money into the project. And the city agreed to accept an obligation to pay the hospital back for the money they put into their project. There was a purchase and a sale agreement. Okay, so we don't know what that looks like. We've never seen that.
So I don't
Well,
recall.
They do,
It's not,
the hospital had the right to assign their interest, which they did.
they've assigned it to the private developer. We'll call it the note. Their opportunity to get paid for a note. And
And that was done properly
No,
before
we
this
didn't
body.
draw that up. That was presented to the city by the nursing home out of Cape Girardeau and the hospital who was selling the property. What you did, I mean, it was supposedly targeted towards the land acquisition piece of the project that could be TIF eligible. Would the city, it's kind of like the Eric Scott situation. We've agreed to put some money into a TIF eligible piece in order to make the transaction happen. But your obligation was tightly defined. It says if there's a TIF note, and if A, B, and C happen, we'll pay that TIF note with interest. A, B, and C did not have it. It's not like we were just offering someone money, please
I
do this.
understand.
They came to you and said.
And we said yes.
We said we would honor a TIF note if A, B, and C occurred.
So what are you proposing?
Now, I'm just telling you what you're,
I don't think
the
it's
note is
proposing
not
anything.
enforceable.
It's,
The contract they have is not enforceable. We
Well,
have,
our piece of the obligation.
so as far as the city of St. Genevieve is concerned, we have no legal obligation for any of this money into that project.
Right.
and you raised the question of whether there's an ethical or
Yes, that's a different question.
Yes.
moral commitment.
Frank,
Right.
once again, and maybe I misunderstood this, but you said, or I think you said, I could be wrong, this payment would go to the hospital, or would it go to the people there?
Well, the hospital apparently assigned, we got a document that says they assigned that note to this hospital developer out of Cape Girardeau.
Okay,
Well,
so we
and
would,
the city acknowledged that it's.
Yeah, so the money would go, well, now, here's the complication. We don't know what the arrangement is between the hospital and the private developer if this happened. In other words, when we talk about moral obligation, we're talking about a legal obligation, and if you're gonna feel like you have a moral obligation, I've never heard what would happen to the hospital.
Sounds like Tom Kine needs to sit down here and explain their position.
Well,
I mean, is that where we're at?
if you want to explore whether you have a moral obligation, I would say yes. What is it, is this gonna damage the hospital?
Yeah, I don't care how it makes this room look. I mean, they've promised, the hospital promised this money to the developer with the thought that the city was gonna give them that money. Is that the picture?
but then at the same time,
With A, B, and C.
Yeah.
but Frank said also at the same time that we're gonna give the money to the developer, not the hospital. Right?
The hospital assigned it to the developer,
Yeah.
the note. The
Yeah.
A, B, and C,
So it goes to them.
Well, it was going to them either way.
I know.
well, not at the very, well, it was presented to you as
Pretty much.
a hospital note.
Yeah, one way or the other, that money, the developer ends up with that money. We're not giving the hospital any money to buy hospital stuff for the hospital.
You put contingent money into their deal.
Right.
You said, we'll put 300 and whatever, plus interest, into your transaction if A, B, and C occur,
Which didn't.
which didn't. And we don't know what the arrangement is between the hospital and the developer if the developer is the one who blew the deal. I
I'm
don't,
just trying to simplify this so we can make some kind of have a thought on it. There was a deal, all right? 3 parties, the hospital, the developer, and St. Genevieve, the city.
It was a deal between the hospital and the city. It gave the hospital the opportunity
Okay.
to assign their interest.
All right. So there's
I think you knew who it was going in. I mean,
there's a 2-party deal between the city and the hospital. And for unknown reasons, the hospital couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. They couldn't make the contract happen, right?
now you're back to a 3-party deal.
Well, it was a 3-party deal the whole
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, it was.
The whole time.
The hospital didn't build the building.
Right. So we got a 3-party deal. Developer, hospital, city. The hospital is going to give the developer some money. The city's going to give the hospital some money. And it kind of just, it's just they're going to touch it and give it right, our money to the developer. The developer didn't meet his contractual obligations on time. So that contract is no longer valid. So the question to this board is, the hospital is going to go ahead and follow through with the developer. Are we going to go ahead and follow through with the hospital? Is that it?
Basically,
Does
yeah.
it break down that
Except we
simple, or
don't
am I
know-
missing
We don't
something?
know what the hospital and the developer's agreement is.
Well, we probably need to know that
I mean,
before we can make any kind of a decision, right?
well, there's a little bit more to it
Okay.
than that, is how does a city pay monies on a contract that has expired? How do we get to that? I mean, if you wanted to do it, and if you tell me, figure out a way to do it,
Right,
I'd
the contract.
like to talk to our TIF attorneys and so forth, can we even do this?
Well, in my, and I don't have any written response to this, but they don't think amending the contract is a critical issue relative to the TIF.
Who does?
Gilmoreville.
Okay, I've not seen that.
They won't put it in writing.
Why are we talking about this? We don't have enough
How
information.
can you amend something that's expired?
Yeah.
I mean, let's say, I look at this as, like, this TIF is a grant or something. If we miss a grant deadline, we're just out.
So you wanted to tell the hospital, no, you guys had a contract issue, we're not getting any of this money.
Well, they knew the timeline. I mean,
But that's the stand you think the city of St. Genevieve should take with the hospital?
we get beat on that all the time.
Tom, I don't think he's talking about the hospital necessarily. I think he's talking about the developer.
Our deal's with the hospital, right?
Well, it's been
The
assigned.
hospitals
I mean, I think
signed
they
their
should have-
interest to the developer.
I
Yeah.
think they should have a penalty.
It's up
We
to
pay
the developer.
penalties on
They're the
stuff
ones
all
that
the
drug
time
their
if the
feet,
city
Tom.
doesn't meet their obligation on stuff. I mean,
They're the
Are you
ones-
just finding a loophole to take this cash and do something else with it?
I don't know what else we're gonna do with it. I'm just saying, they didn't meet their commitments. We're not obligated.
I'm just saying, Tom, that it's a question of whether it is a commitment as you sit here today.
Oh, I don't know how many people were on this board at the time when that was voted on. Certainly, some of you were. I don't know if you were or not.
I don't remember. I don't recall.
John.
I remember
Teddy.
knowing about it, but I don't recall any details about it.
But I guess it does get back to Tom's question. What has really changed here to your moral or ethical commitment that you made to get a nursing home built? I guess that's what it really gets down to.
Well, I feel it's piss poor business that they couldn't come and talk to us
I agree.
in between.
I agree 100%.
And it give us updates, and all of a sudden now, it's a big deal.
Handout.
I mean, I'm in business, and that would be very poor. Anybody in business.
It's all about communication.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we get Tom Kime to come and talk to us at the next, this isn't something that has to happen.
We're going to have a meeting in a week and 3 days. So
Maybe we need to get both of them here at the same time. Maybe that might be the right solution, because people just gonna have finger pointing, so get them both here and find out what really happened.
I don't even care what happened with their contract. For whatever reason, they missed their deadline. So are we gonna just immediately pull that rug back out from underneath their feet that they're still trying to get this project done? That's my only question.
What does
And
your
I'm not-
banker
I'm
do
not
if you miss your
leaving-
deadline?
Hey,
It's over with.
my banker is not the city of St. Genevieve working with the hospital, working with a nursing home developer, trying to cut something else here in town.
Tom, it's not just though that they missed their deadline. They missed their deadline by a year and a half.
I understand. Yeah, I get
Did not
that.
ask for an extension. They don't want to be obligated to have an occupancy permit.
I understand that. I'm interested in
So
finding
that-
out where the hospital
In my
stands.
opinion, that's not missing a deadline, that's asking for a new contract.
Well, I think we definitely would have to have a new contract, wouldn't we?
And, well, if we're going to ask bond counsel whether or not this requires a new contract or can we amend it, that information ought to be done in writing, we ought to be getting a written response.
Yeah.
Because you don't know whether you have even can do this, okay? This is not, it's $337,000. If you're wrong, and it's an illegal TIF transaction, what's the consequences of that?
That's what we count on you to tell us.
Well, I'm telling you,
Wait,
as I sit
when we
here,
get to a position.
as I sit here, there is no enforceable TIF note obligation.
Got it.
There is none.
Got it.
Okay. If we want to create one, it would be creating one. It would not be,
Got it.
hey, we'll forgive you for missing a deadline, because
You'll
they
take-
can't even meet the deadline before 2015 under the existing contract, because the existing contract required an occupancy permit. All they can promise, and they think they can, I guess, is they can meet a white box. There can be a building sitting there.
To me, that's not, that issue will resolve itself if we decide we want to pursue it. I mean, we may not want to pursue it.
Your
We may
issue,
not wanna
though,
give them any money.
Might not be able to pursue it.
Right. Your issue, though, as you said
Why
here
are we
tonight,
talking about it?
because you
Because we have to.
you have potentially 337,000 and 125,000 for projects that take time, that take planning, that take engineering.
I think
If that $337,500 could have been turned into an obligation before August of last year, but maybe not. And now, since August of last year till today, it's still floating around as an indecisive number that you have opportunity costs. If you don't have that money available to do other projects, you will run out of time to do other projects.
I think we need to hear from Tom Kine and find out what the hospital is doing, what their current deal is, how they handled this lack of meeting deadlines, what their commitment is to the nursing home developer, and we need to make a very quick decision if we want to throw any money at all that way, or if we want to identify projects that we can quickly complete with these funds. But we're missing some key elements here tonight in our discussion.
And you're missing whether or not you can even do
That's
that.
what I was just gonna say.
I still don't understand that. What do you mean?
Because when you accepted their TIF proposal, they told you why they felt this was an essential piece of their project. Okay? And you participated and did everything you were obligated to do under that TIF agreement. Everything. Now, the project is still going on. They're putting up this and that. But your obligation to the project has expired. Why did that happen? And what is the city going to get against any other project you might want to do for those TIF dollars?
I understand that. If we chose to do it, we'd have to have a new contract done. Would there be a hold up against that? Because their first contract failed, that we couldn't negotiate?
Well, their contract may very well be in place. I mean, as between the hospital and the nursing home, they may be just happy. They're saying, whoops, we left money on the table. The city was willing to put $337,000 into the project, and we missed it. Can we still get it? That's what they're asking you.
I understand that. Yeah, but legally, if that contract's gone, the first contract's gone, right? It's gone. If
Our obligation in that.
our obligation is gone. If this board so chose to give them any money, we could enter into a new contract and do that.
Or perhaps another piece of the project. Maybe, I'm just making this up. Let's suppose.
Any qualifying piece of the project.
Right.
Right.
Parking lot.
And this board
Something
may
that
decide, no, we don't
they
want to
didn't
give them any of
apply.
that money. We think we could get better public use out of this money somewhere else. But we need to have Tom here to explain to us why the city should continue to participate after these deadlines were missed.
Well, I don't think Tom can answer that.
Well,
He's
either Tom or the
he's-
developer.
He's the one working
Yeah.
with the developer.
Yeah, I don't think he can answer
Is
that
the
question.
hospital still obligated to the developer for
That's
that
what
We don't know.
we need to know from Tom.
You know, when you think about it, it was supposed to be completed with occupancy permit August 2013. So the nursing home continues to operate out of the hospital's building up by the park. And I guess they're in business and making money, and rent's being paid between the nursing home and the hospital and all that.
I have no idea if any of that's true.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just guessing. But there's a big picture here, and it's kind of like a warranty on a car that's expired.
I just think it was, for some reason, their deal got screwed up and they didn't make it. And now it's up to us to decide if we want to be obligated to participate with TIF funds, if they have anything that's eligible at this time,
Or if there's something else that might be eligible.
or something that will be eligible on that project. And if it's not, and if the board decides that either way, we don't want to, they missed their chance, we're going to take the money and do something else with it, we need to figure that out very quickly, and that's your point, right?
Well, logistically, why you're here is you can't do other projects using the 337 unless you
Let's get a
make a
quick,
decision.
quick discussion on what other projects could we spend $300,000 on?
Look at the
That would
streets out
be-
there.
that would be
That
eligible.
Subdivision, look at
That
the
would be
streets.
eligible to spend TIF money on.
Are they eligible? Point-based drive and,
Point-based drive is.
yeah.
We can't replace point-based drive for $337,000, but we could get the major portion of it done.
Well, if you throw the other 120 with it.
That's close. You know,
you could get
we got an estimate, an engineer's estimate for that work that's north of $450.
What about
$1,000.
that? What was the extension in Parkwood? What was that roughly?
Well, that was,
That's not even on the table, really.
No.
We pretty much decided that's no
that's
go.
out.
yeah,
That's
that was like pushing 800,000.
Oh,
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
Well, it sounds to me like we need to hear from the hospital, and if they can explain to us that their obligation relies on our previous obligation still to this day, we can decide whether or not we want to participate. Otherwise, we can have a discussion pretty quickly on how to spend that money.
When was the
Somewhere
last
else.
time they communicated with you?
They came to a meeting, a board meeting, 3 months ago, after we had approved the contract, and they had produced a new definition of substantial completion.
Okay.
They had an attorney draft what he called a revision to the original agreement.
Even though the original agreement had expired?
Yeah.
I'm with John. If I had a project and I was thinking I was going to get 300 grand from the city, I would protect that part of that project.
I would have
You know, I would've been on top of
in
that.
communication
You know
and
what I mean?
saying, hey, we've had some setbacks, can we keep this going? I mean,
It wasn't for lack of my trying to get that far.
I'm not implying that, I'm just saying that's how I would have handled it,
I
but,
think we
you know.
need to understand from the hospital what's happened and what their obligation is, and then we can decide if we want to
Yeah.
participate anew or
Most
not.
of the inquiries, if not all of them, started on this end,
Yeah.
not on
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, they never
We had
saw
to
me
beg them to
out.
try to give them that money. But I'm not going to just hold that against
Right.
them to the point, I'm not worried about the developer. If the hospital's made an obligation that they feel like we are still involved in, or they need us to be involved in, I think we need to have a discussion about that.
Tom,
Otherwise, we have the opportunity to look at how to spend that money elsewhere.
I think you need to ask the question, does the hospital have recourse against the developer for missing these deadlines?
Absolutely.
Because normally you would think that there would be something in this contract that you've never seen that says if the developer is the one who missed the deadlines, the hospital didn't miss any deadlines. The hospital immediately assigned a note to the developer, so the developer, not the hospital, not Tom Kine, but the developer is holding a note that wants you to pay.
Got it.
So it's not Tom Kine,
Yeah, but
unless there's something in
we
the
need to-
agreement
we need to know how
that says the
works.
hospital's gonna be damaged for the developer's action. You know,
But the communication was all from the hospital, not from the developer.
the recent communication has been with the hospital.
I never met the developer
Right.
until they finally, after Max brought in
Right.
construction drawings.
Right.
But they couldn't bring those to me until the state had approved them. So you got to get a certificate of necessity from the state. Then you have your architects and engineers draw up the plans. Then you send them to the state, and the state approves them, and then they come to us.
Right.
So,
I get what he's saying, but I'm just saying, I understand what Frank's saying, but then again, if all your communication has been with the hospital, it's sort of like the right.
and my communication is every time I saw Tom Kime, and
Yeah.
I would
Right hand
ask
doesn't
him,
know
or
what the left hand.
send him an email to say,
Yeah.
what's going on? It's- All right, so next Thursday, tomorrow, I will invite Mr. Kime and whoever he wants to bring with him,
Why wouldn't you?
I would like to see the developer.
the developer,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want him here.
Yeah, I'd say if he's thinking he's going to get 300 grand, he probably ought to show up.
and, for a 6 PM meeting with the Board of Aldermen.
Tell him to be ready, so we can get something.
I'm not going to pull any punches, I'm telling him.
Is it next Thursday or?
Court sisters.
Oh, this Thursday?
Next Thursday,
regular meeting.
next Thursday.
The next regular meeting or
Martin,
next Thursday?
I do think that
Next
this
regular
board
meeting,
would
okay.
want
A
to
week from
know
Thursday.
that if you don't give this money to the developer, will it cause some recourse or negativity to the hospital?
That's what I said. a while ago.
That's my
Just-
only
yeah,
concern.
Just give us a black
That's
eye.
my only concern is that we don't harm the
Well,
hospital.
nobody can accuse you of not honoring a note.
I'm not really worried about anybody accusing us of anything. If it harms the hospital,
You'd
I
want to
don't,
know.
yeah, I want to I would probably be in favor of participating so they don't get hurt too bad.
And-
Maybe not to the full level.
Tom, I've been saying for the last, I don't know, 6 months, that the whole transaction ought to be transparent. That if there is
I
some
agree.
contract language between the developer and the hospital that's going to cause harm to the hospital, I'd like to see that. And not just have, shadows on the wall or whatever. Hey, we're a hospital, you're a city, let's be nice. Doesn't work that way. Not when you're elected by the public to manage public funds for the benefit of the city of St. Genevieve.
How, I'm gonna let that go. All right.
Because that money's going, on paper, it's going to private developer.
I understand that. We've talked ourselves in this circle that we don't know what the agreement between the developer and the hospital is.
Or do we care?
I care.
Okay. No one is on this board that I know of has seen that agreement.
If the hospital says, listen, we're done with this guy, they had all these problems, there's been nothing but trouble, we don't think that this is gonna be a very good deal, then I think it's real quick and easy for us to say we don't wanna participate. If the hospital says, listen, here's the thing, here's how it happened, this is why we are still in favor of participating with this developer, then I think we have a discussion and a quick vote and make our minds up.
I guess another question might be, is the deal done?
Yeah.
I mean, as between the hospital and, are they still have transactions, or is this the cream of the?
Right.
Well, that was going to be my question, Frank, is wouldn't the hospital have had a contract with the developer, and wouldn't there have been stipulations in that contract? You have to have X done by a certain date, and there's always ramifications. You don't meet the commitment, then, I mean, if they're the ones holding it up, maybe it's dead on that end.
For you to entertain paying money to the developer on the issue of keeping a promise that you made to the hospital, on a hospital note that was assigned to a private developer, I think you're all right. You need to have that explained to you,
Yeah.
why there's some,
The other possibility, and again, we don't know, is the hospital's agreement with the developer, or the hospital obligation to anybody ended when they assigned the note. I mean, they don't,
I think if we understood that, we could make a
We
probably
need to
pretty
know
quick
all that
decision.
stuff. Yeah.
And you said that you're not even sure that we're allowed to pay this?
I'm saying that after you hear what,
If
I
we-
guess, a pitch from the developer saying, I really need this money, or this nursing home isn't gonna get built. That's the thing. If they still need your money for that nursing home to be built, then I think you would have to try to figure out whether you're gonna do a new TIF or some piece.
you know,
I think
pursuant to that, I posed that question to their attorney. And their attorney said, I don't believe that's necessary. And I said, well, I'd like to see that in writing.
Oh, wait a minute, that's the hospital's attorney.
No, wait a minute. And he
Right?
said, yeah,
That
he
wasn't
said,
the
well,
question.
if you want a legal opinion, somebody's gonna have, we'll have to, it's more involved, and it's gonna cost X number of dollars, and then I got a call from Gilmore Bell and said, this attorney called me, Shannon Grayton, and asked this question. And I said, okay, I'm not engaging you to give this opinion. We were requiring them to show us that no further action relative to TIF was necessary. And their attorney either couldn't or wouldn't do that. And Shannon Wilson said, well, I'll tell you, I don't think it's necessary, but nobody has hired me to write an opinion. And I said, well, I'm not hiring you to write an opinion.
Well, written opinions are based on a written set of facts that I've never seen you don't get opinions on,
I think the
Conversation.
question was, the way I heard Joe say the question is, if it's not legal to do it anyway. If we chose to give them the money, we could figure out how to make it legal if it qualified.
I'm led to
TIF
believe
guidelines.
that they don't see a problem with it happening.
But we don't even, but we're having a conversation
But nobody's gonna
again.
put that in writing
It doesn't
unless
matter
they're,
until we decide
know who
we're
they're
not gonna do it
representing.
anymore.
and there's no application for the money in front of you.
Right.
No one's filed an application saying, hey, we'd like to have $337,000 submitted to you by the holder of the note, which is the developer. That's not on your table.
So
But if I
they've
remember-
gone through all these deadlines and never resubmitted anything at all?
No,
Yes,
nothing in
no,
writing,
Okay.
nothing in writing.
But based off what you said earlier, we never got to the point where we contacted the bond attorneys or whatever to make sure that this was even feasible.
You don't have anything to give to the bond
We're
attorney.
not there.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. So we're
No,
not.
we were just talking about kind of general principles.
Conceptually, I would be surprised if we couldn't figure out a way if you really wanted to.
Nothing we can do until we get more information.
Right.
Yeah.
So it boils down to, you gotta get them down here and
We gotta
get
more
in front of you.
Well, we have to.
And it ought to be in writing before you even bother discussing it.
This is all just hypothetical.
Martin, we need to invite them to come, and if they show up, we can have a discussion. If they don't show up, I'd
I
say the
would say that'd be
discussion's
the
pretty
end of it.
over,
Yeah.
pretty much.
No
Well,
answer.
they will be formally invited.
Thank you, sir.
But let me repeat myself.
Yeah.
If they want to discuss with you a proposal, it ought to be a written proposal submitted to you, and then they come to the meeting and pitch it.
We should tell them that.
Okay. So they're,
What are they asking? Who's asking and for what?
okay, we know what they were asking for. and
No, we
we're-
don't.
Well, we have.
We know what they were the first time,
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the old agreement, yes.
and that we need to ensure that they
Now-
understand the clock's ticking.
But I wonder if
I
they
can call them
modify
and-
their agreement now, maybe.
And say,
Oh, their agreement.
Yeah.
if
They've
they
got an agreement.
no to that,
Those two have an
come back
agreement
and
you haven't seen.
with another proposal. But what am I going to tell them? Why am I going to tell them I'm saying no to their prior
The current-
application now?
It's,
Which is
we're
already-
basically-
Because the contract is expired,
Yeah.
it is your opinion that you can't modify an expired
Right.
contract.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, how about-
What am I gonna tell them?
Martin,
If they
Martin,
want you to modify it, ask for it in writing.
how about this?
This
Has anybody, wait a minute, Frank,
No, what you've got is
you guys
they've
can have this
drafted,
meeting by yourselves. Here's the thing. We can, as a board, have the opinion that we consider your expired contract null and void, and if you so choose to try to
Resubmit.
get some of this money from us, you're going to have to submit to us a new proposal that would come along with the new contract. We don't care about amending your old contract. It's gone. It's over. If you want to do something now, and you've got to hurry, because we're not going to let this play out for 2 more months. You better come at the next meeting and make your case in an hour, and because that's all you're going to get. Because if we don't, if we let this drag on for 2 months, that just shortens the time on, we're going to have to figure out a way to spend this money.
But are you as a board saying that, along with our legal counsel, saying that that thing is truly expired, null and void, when we have their attorney and the bond, and the TIF attorney saying, we think that thing will work?
TIF attorney said that we didn't have to have a public hearing to enter into a contract. That was what they told me.
Okay.
I say it's null and void.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's over.
it's
They
over.
missed it.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to, I want to hear them, I want to hear what the hospital has to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
And understand we did make this commitment once upon a time, and now we got to be careful that we're not just making a money grab. If it hurts the hospital, we need to participate not to hurt the hospital. If the information we get doesn't satisfy us, then we can spend that money in other areas.
Okay,
Okay, let's do that. All right?
the mission is clear to me.
Clear as mud.
Well, I know what I have to tell
Helping us understand.
times, and
I'd have never figured that out if you hadn't told me how that worked. I never would have figured that out. It's too,
the pretty picture in front of you shows property the city owns or the levy district, but the levy district said whatever the Board of Aldermen wants to do is okay with them at our meeting today. the old lumber yard site, and Downtown Revitalization Group is wanting to start a community garden in the downtown area, and they've
Where's the old
identified,
lumberyard site?
and that's this,
Old Wiener lumberyard.
this yellow outline,
Oh, okay.
regular shaped
All right,
site.
sorry.
You're old enough to
Apologize.
remember that, aren't you?
Yeah,
Carmel.
that was a little bit before my time.
No,
And-
I remember it. Come on.
This, yeah.
Well, you went up and down the street.
The,
Ain't that where the ramp used to be for loading and offloading the railroad cars?
Yes, it's
I remember
part of
that.
it's still there.
So, without any comment on the suitability of this site for a garden, I just, for general purposes, would like to hear whether you would introduce a lease like we do on flood buyout property. This is not flood buyout property, for them to operate such a community garden.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Are you saying this is
Oh, wait a
owned
minute.
by levy district or owned by Jones?
Oh, it's right there.
Joint levy commission.
You know, they've looked at this property before, and they didn't take this property because there's too much garbage and wood and all kinds of stuff.
that
in
That
it.
was not these same people.
And it,
It's the same property.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's the same property looked at before.
Property I heard
by
was-
different people.
was Pinkley's property.
It was the corner of Lighthay and Main,
Yeah.
Well, that's where we put the water.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they looked at this.
Okay, they might not do it. I mean, I just want to tell them,
And they.
if you want to
decided
pursue
they
it,
didn't want it because
you have our
there's
blessing.
Too much,
Yeah.
They want to have a garden there.
and trash.
Nothing else is happening.
I bet there
They don't have
is.
a garden there.
Well, there is. Somebody looked at it and said it wasn't suitable for
I
a
think,
garden.
I went by there today, and I don't disagree with that. But
Okay.
Does it have
Maybe
water?
that thumb is not green for a reason.
Maybe they're growing cactus.
I mean, they need to look at this again.
Well, maybe they're going to build it up,
Can any of the flood
You
buyout
know,
properties be
don't
used
bring
for
that
that
up.
purpose?
not without permission from the State Emergency Management Agency and the Federal Emergency
Not
Management.
for gardening,
But
not for gardening.
What?
I mean, you're not putting a structure on it, you're just,
If they want to try it, I don't care if they want to.
SEMA tells me you can't,
Yeah, but they always want to.
I agree with you.
Every place
Okay,
they
they
go.
can use every buyout piece of property we
There's
have.
a list of things that you can do on flood buyout
at
property.
least they'd be maintained.
And so I called the guy at the State Emergency Management Agency because we had a arboretum thing that, what's his name, wanted to do. He said, those are activities that we will approve, but you gotta apply.
Yeah, that's fine, you do it.
I'm happy if they want to use that,
Yeah.
and we tell them, you can use it, but the city will make no further commitment.
Yeah.
We're not going to, because Teddy's right, we're not going to run water lines, we're not going to spend any money at it. If you want to plow it up, plant something there, knock yourselves out. At the end of your gardening season or your experiment, whichever way it goes, you need to knock it back down so we can plant grass seed there.
And also tell them that they want any other buyout project,
Well,
property,
they want-
do that too.
That,
You
yeah,
know, get that,
they're looking to do it on buyout proproperties.
good.
And I explained to them, you know, we have to submit a plan and all of that, so they're aware of
That's
that.
fine with me, but.
As long as it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
It's a nice idea, I hope it works more.
I hope it does too.
All right.
It's a great idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, right, oh, yeah, that's
You want to talk about anything on
I'd like to have a short closed session at the end of the regular meeting to talk about real estate.
Okay.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Grimmincher,
Here.
Alderwoman Codwell. Here. Alderman Couch.
Here.
Alderman John Stupi.
Here.
Alderman Jokers.
Here.
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Here.
Alderman Hook.
Here.
Alderman Prince.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval agenda.
Approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have certification of the election results. We need a motion and a second to approve those.
Motion to certify the election results.
I second it.
Just keep trying, you'll get one.
I don't care.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that will lead us into swearing in the new members. Before we do that, though, we do have one member that will be retiring tonight, and I just wanted to personally thank you, and on behalf of the city, thank you for all of your hard work and your diligence over the years. Your input has been very valuable, and thank you very much, Teddy. We appreciate it.
It's been a good experience, and I'd like to thank Ward 4 for supporting me and allowing me to represent them the last 4 years, and just let them know that they got a good person come in here, and I'm sure he's going to represent us just as well, and I wish him the best.
Good.
Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks, Ted.
Ma'am, all yours.
Okay.
What do we do?
We gotta have this.
Can I read this?
If you want to read it off, sure.
Easier that way.
You're not in the hot seat, that's what it is, that's the hot seat.
Did Buck get elected again?
Yes.
Damn, he did.
You need a neutral background.
So you will,
Okay, so how is this arranged, like this?
You could, squeeze together a little bit.
Good
get
deal.
him-
Here, I'm good to go here.
Just don't step on top of
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I got mine.
Okay, so just raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I possess all the qualifications
that I possess all qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of
for the office of Alderman Ward 4
of the city of St. Genevieve,
of the city of St. Genevieve,
Missouri,
Missouri,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Missouri,
and the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws of the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws of the state of Missouri,
affecting cities of the fourth class,
affecting cities of the fourth class,
and the ordinances of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri,
and the ordinance of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri,
and that I will faithfully demean myself
that I will faithfully demean myself
in the office of
in the office of Alderman Ward 4
of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri,
of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri,
for which I was appointed on the 7th day of April 2015.
for which I was appointed the 7th day of April 2015.
Congratulations.
Yeah, way to go, guys.
You need these here?
Yes.
You got it signed?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, just pass it up, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you guys need to sign these
Oh,
first.
I signed mine.
We can get
I
it.
did.
Here,
We can do it later. Tom did.
I signed mine
Doug
already.
signed it.
Real quick.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah.
I was just looking at mine. All right. All right, now we need to do a new roll call.
Mayor Grimminger?
Here.
Alderwoman Codwell? Here. Alderman Couch?
Here.
Alderman John Stupi?
Here.
Alderman Jokers?
Here.
Alderman Hook?
Here.
Alderman Donnie Stupi?
Here.
Alderman Prince?
Here.
Alderman Rozika?
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you.
Stay out here.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, I think we go right to the, your report, Mark.
Okay. As you all know from my last report, that the pipe on 9th Street is replaced. We're waiting for the material to settle before we go in and start trying to dress it up and replace the sidewalks or the walkways up to the house. You remember that there was water coming into the trench that we had some trace chlorine in it that we thought might be a leak. Well, Steve and his crew went up and dug, and they dug, and they dug, and they dug, and never found a leak, but found a substantial amount of water coming out of the ground. We took samples of that water, and to make sure, even though it had chlorine in it, that it was coming from the potable water system. And so they looked at hardness and alkalinity and some other tests that they did on the water, and it isn't coming from our water system. It's just coming out of the ground. So we're
How would you get chlorine in water if it's coming out of the ground?
picks up something out of the soil.
Huh.
It reacts with I don't know where it's getting the chlorine, but we know where it's not coming
Right,
from.
okay.
So, Steve will have a comment on that.
There he is.
It may not necessarily be chlorine that the test is indicating. There's other things that'll indicate on our test that it's chlorine. Stuff that appears up as chlorine. It could be oxidizers, it could be fertilizers. There's a number of things that show up the same way. But running the other tests, the alkalinity, the hardness, the iron, the manganese, they all came up matching raw water samples.
For as many problems as the rain has caused us in other areas, it certainly has facilitated settling that construction site. So we'll be able to get to it sooner rather than later.
Right.
I know, checked out the 2 knockdown properties, and whoever, or I guess Roth did all that, that's not settling hardly at all. He did a good job with those
I understand the
grass is growing.
grass is
already,
growing
yeah.
and
Yeah, it
we're
looks
about
like-
ready to cut this one over here that we own. And while that's not on the report, I was ready to run an ad on the property on Merchant. And I wanted to describe the size of the lot, because that's pretty important. It's only 50 feet wide, 90 feet about. So I went to the county GIS system because they have property boundaries on it. And whatever information they have is wrong. It just doesn't make sense. So I don't know the exact size of that lot, and I've asked Dave Weber to help me research it and find some record that describes the size of that lot. I don't think it's worth getting it surveyed just to try and sell it. But I want to be able to provide as much accurate information as I can when I entertain offers on it. So I've kind of put a hold on that, getting that information before I run an ad on that property.
I think we probably should get it surveyed. It wouldn't be that much money. Huh?
We'll have to anyway, won't we?
Yeah.
if we sell
Well,
it?
usually the buyer gets a survey. But
Right.
we can have it surveyed.
Make that part of the selling price.
Yeah, but I think that needs to be surveyed.
Okay. You have on the agenda tonight the second reading of the contract. I've talked to MoDOT, and they're ready to release funds as soon as we get a signed contract in their hands. Joey Howard's been working on the water improvement She's completed the updating of our financial disclosure report, and we're now moving into the phase where we'll be sending out requests for proposals for financing on the certificates of participation. I ended up talking to Eric Curti, is the way you pronounce that, with the State of Missouri Railroad section about our issues. He told me that the horn usage issue was a difficult one in many communities, and that the railroad's responding to federal and state mandates relative to crossings, that there were ways that we can set up quiet zones, but they require almost federal approval. The state can't approve it. You've got to do infrastructure improvements like lane reconfigurations, and I mean, it got really complicated. So he advised me to dissuaded me from that, but on the 4th Street crossing, he said he could send an inspector out. In the meantime, Carla has found and developed a relationship. Yeah, it's kind of ironic, with a guy named Brandon Leffler, the roadmaster. She just saw somebody standing on the railroad over there, and went up to him and said, "Hey, we've got a problem. Is there anything you can do to help me?" And he turned out to be the guy. And so she calls him about once every 2 or 3 days. "Do you do anything? You do anything? You do anything?" And his latest report to her is that they want to schedule a road closure shooting for around the 20th of this month. It's about 5 hours worth of work. They're going to come in and lift up that concrete spacer, re-prepare the subgrade, put it back down so it's a level crossing again. So hopefully that project will get done before the end of the month.
Oh, good.
Good.
After conversations we had on the use of the 5 Industrial Drive, I had a conversation with PIVA, and I'd like a short closed session at the end of the regular meeting to discuss real estate. And we had an interesting, Pam and I, meeting with Lakeman on kind of a new approach to health insurance that could save the city some money with no loss of benefits to our employees. But it requires them to get more proactive in responding to their health issues, and they get credit for doing that. And it's not big things. I mean, it's small things, and it's all self-reporting. But you know, if you go to get a regular checkup, you know, you get points for that. And if you go to the dentist, you get points for that. And it's this whole trying to control potential problems rather than addressing kind of the problems after you get them. So we're looking at that, and we could make the change. We don't have to wait to the end of our current policy period in order to make such a change. So we're going to give it a long, hard look and let you know. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Okay, staff reports, committee reports. Okay, going to the minutes of the regular meeting of March 26th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any closed meeting on March 26th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of Thursday, March 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have the election of the new president of the board.
Buck?
Second.
Take
I nominate Buck. Who?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
You're it.
Just what you said.
He's his old mayor job.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. All right.
Old habits.
Just flashback there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll make it official, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mayor doesn't ever leave, does he? That's the main thing.
All right, get before that shit. Was there any other nominations?
Buck.
Okay, good enough. Now we have the appointment of the city clerk.
I think we need to talk about this one for a while. Do we have any other candidates that we could possibly appoint?
That's up to you.
I have a statement. You'll need to consider a city administrator to make it.
I nominate Sam Meyer.
I do. I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Appointment of chief of police.
Move on Eric Bennett. Second.
Any other comments or discussion?
Point of order, the mayor appoints with your advice and
right.
Oh,
consent.
okay.
Yeah.
So the mayor would
Yeah.
announce who he's wanting to appoint,
Yeah.
Is that for,
Forgot about that.
that's not for city clerk?
not for city clerk.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So, it was already said, I certainly would like to reappoint Eric as police chief.
And I'd like to point out that in honor of the occasion, he got dressed up.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh, what is that? You did-
I think we already had a motion and a second, right?
Yep.
On that name. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I would like to appoint Kenny Steiger as the new fire chief. I did meet with the fire department last week, and they were very supportive of Kenny and thinks he can do a good job.
Good. Glad to hear that.
So
Would you like
I'd like a motion
a
to accept
motion to
that.
appoint Kenny Steiger to be the new fire chief?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Resolution 2015-27, a resolution of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a property maintenance agreement with Bonita E. Samuelson.
Can you tell what this is about real quickly?
Do you know where Bonnie Samuelson lives? She has a maintenance property behind her.
Right.
She leases it from the city and just keeps it mowed so it
Okay.
doesn't grow up.
All right, fine.
Behind her is Main Street frontage, correct?
Right.
That whole big lot?
Yeah.
Fine.
Old stone shed.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah, the one's
Motion.
on that property, I'm
Right.
pretty sure, yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution 2015-28, a resolution appointing Phil Tucker, PhD, to the St. Genevieve Community Access Channel 990-991.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Resolution 2015-29, a resolution appointing Jody Odom to the St. Genevieve Community Access Channel 990-991.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And resolution 2015-30, a resolution appointing Leanne Waldvogel to the St. Genevieve Heritage Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Does that fill up that commission then?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
Good. That's great.
Okay. Old business, bill number 4015, second reading.
An ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the City of St. Genevieve and the St. Genevieve Municipal Band.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderwoman Codwell.
Yes.
Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Hook.
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rozika.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4015 now becomes ordinance 3961.
Thank you. Bill number 4023, second reading.
An ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Bear Engineering LLC of Perryville, Missouri for construction inspection services for the St. Genevieve River Beautification and Hiking Trail Project, STP-9900-025, in an amount not to exceed $49,500.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Rozika?
Yes.
Alderman Prince?
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi?
Yes.
Alderman Hook?
Yes.
Alderman Jokers?
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi?
Yes.
Alderman Couch?
Yes.
Alderwoman Codwell?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4023 now becomes ordinance 3962.
Thank you. Bill number 4024, second reading.
An ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri authorizing a 2-hour parking restriction on the west side of 4th Street between Jefferson and Washington Street.
Yes.
Discussion. Are we also going to be seeing an ordinance addressing this on the east side of 4th Street in the same area?
I thought that was already
There's signs
done.
already there, ain't there?
Well, wait till you get this. Eric, would you like to speak on this?
I thought there were.
There's signs there, but
No one.
can't enforce it.
Yeah, there are signs there that's never been adopted, or when maybe when it was recodified, that section didn't make it
Oh,
in. So there are people parking there now, and we're just not taking enforcement action because we can't. I have polled the majority of the residents there, the ones that have called me back, and they're all in favor. They didn't know that it wasn't.
If we limit the parking on the west side of the street, they're all just going to move across the street.
Right.
Because the signs are there, but we have no way to enforce the signs because there's no ordinance.
Right.
So we need to
Come back.
draft another ordinance for the east side of the street so we don't just
And I was still
lopside
getting some
with that.
feedback from the residents, so I didn't get it in time for this, but it will be on for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, second reading. This is second reading. Roll call.
Roll.
Alderman Jokers?
Yes.
Alderman Hook?
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi?
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi?
Yes.
Alderman Couch?
Yes.
Alderwoman Codwell?
Yes.
Alderman Prince?
Yes.
Alderman Rozika?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4024 now becomes ordinance 3963.
Thank you. New business, bill number 4027, first reading.
An ordinance approving a tax-exempt equipment lease purchase agreement with FS Leasing LLC.
And before you act on it, I solicited quotes for financing from several organizations, and FS Equipment Leasing has the most beneficial rates. Terry Lukemeyer with them is here to answer any questions that you have. The rate is certainly very attractive, and more than anything, the payments meet the amount that we have budgeted annually for lease payments on this piece of equipment.
What piece of equipment are we talking about?
More of the park, I'm sorry, the more
Okay.
for the,
I haven't looked at all the way, I never could find it.
It's on the
It's
second
in
last
like
page.
Okay.
one place there, yeah.
On the back side of it.
in 2 readings would be helpful, so we can start cutting grass.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of first reading?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need to move a second? Okay, motion for a second reading on this?
Second.
All in favor of second reading, bill number 4027?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, second reading, bill number 4027.
An ordinance approving a tax-exempt equipment lease purchase agreement with FS Leasing LLC.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Donnie Stupi?
Yes.
Alderman Hook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Codwell?
Yes.
Alderman Couch?
Yes.
Alderman Jokers?
Yes.
Alderman Rozika?
Yes.
Alderman Prince?
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4027 now becomes ordinance 3964.
Okay. Public comments, anyone? No? Okay. Any other business? Very good, then I'll entertain a motion to go into a short closed session to talk about real estate.
Motion for closed session to talk about real estate.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Codwell? Yes. Alderman Couch?
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi? Alderman Jokers? Alderman Hook? Alderman Donnie Stupi? Alderman Prince? Alderman Rozika? Motion carries.